AFCON, World Cup, who needs it? The CAF Champions League is back, and we're going to break down match day one in a lot of detail coming up next on the African 5-Side podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the African Football Report on the African 5-Side podcast. I'm Maher Mezahi. I'm your host, and as always, this is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Again, I know everybody's mostly looking forward to the Rolani Mokoena interview. What I can tell you is that I spoke to the video editor who says that the rough cut will be ready tomorrow morning, so Friday, November 21st. And then I'm going to send it to another video editor that's going to be doing Arabic subtitles. That's important, especially for a lot of MC Alger's fans. And I anticipate that taking probably 1 to 2 days as well. So I think this interview will be ready around the 23rd or the 24th of November. I hope that's my plan, at least. At the latest, maybe the 25th. So it's really going to be a few days prior to MC Alger's taking on Mamelodi Sundowns. I think that's when it's going to bang the most anyway. So if you're kind of hanging out, looking forward to that, I don't want to leave you in suspense. That's where we are with the editing process. I can tell you that it was a really enjoyable conversation. We went into a lot of depth over that 90 minutes, and I think everybody's really going to enjoy it. If you like this channel, you're going to like the interview, because a lot of the stuff we talk about on this channel, we brought up in the interview. Credit to the coach, he was completely wide open. So keep an eye out on that. There's also going to be a little bit of an article that'll give some extra behind the scenes access on africasaCountry.com. So do go check out africasaCountry.com. If you haven't yet, do me a favor, just go right now. Go to the social media outlets and follow them wherever they are. It'd be a big help, and a nice thing of you to do for me. Anyways, let's move on to the CAF Champions League match day one. This is our bread and butter. The hardcore subscribers to this channel are here for the CAF Champions League. So the interesting thing about match day one and match day two of CAF Champions League, as is the case every year, is that we have match day one and match day two around this time, October, November, and then we go away for AFCON or winter break or whatever the case may be, and we come back sometime in February. So the group stages are split into two, and I think it's important, if you're a coach, to always split your season up into digestible segments. This is something that North American football coaches do very well. They talk about, in a 16-match season, quarters. Okay, for the first 4 matches, we want to go 3-1. We want 3 victories, one loss, or we want to go 4 victories, 0 losses, or we're okay. In these 4 games, there's some very tough teams. We're okay if we go 2-2. But I think it's always important as a coach to make things digestible for your team, because otherwise you can get lost in all the competitions, all the matches that there are in a championship. It's not easy, and you want to make sure that they're mentally sharp for the tests that lie ahead. That's part of setting any smart goal, is to make sure that it's measurable. And so if I was coaches looking at this, I would look at the opposition and say, okay, we're expecting 3, 4, 6 points out of these 2 matches. Let's make sure we're in a good place going into next February, particularly for some new coaches, and there are a few new coaches. The other thing that's newsworthy, that concerns all of the CAF Champions League before we go group by group, is that Orlando Pirates' appeal against FC Saint-Eloi Lupopo has been rejected. As everybody probably knows, it's made headlines. They appealed that, I believe, players or coaches should have been ineligible and suspended. CAF did not agree, and as a result, Lupopo have been confirmed that they're going to play. Both teams did receive sanctions, however. So there's that. And then the final thing, point of order before we break into details, is that I'm so sad, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make the MC Alger versus Mamelodi Sundowns match on November 28th. It was something that I was really looking forward to doing, is vlogging that match and showing, especially so many people from South Africa watch this channel, but showing people what MC Alger is as a club. So, videotaping the graffiti that's around the city, speaking to supporters, going to the match, experiencing the atmosphere. Unfortunately, I'm working on something else at the moment. It's an African Cup of Nations preview for CAF. So that's going to be on various channels. I'll give you guys more details when it's out, prior to the AFCON starting, but I'm going to be traveling. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to watch MC Alger versus Sundowns in person. I'll watch it, of course, remotely, but not in person. Anyways, let's get to business. CAF Champions League. First match is Al-Hilal versus MC Algiers in Rwanda. And what we're going to do is break down both teams and then see who we think wins this match. Let's start with MC of Algiers. For those that don't know, this was a very tricky start for Hulali Mokwena because um, when he starts the season, he has several players that are away for the African Nations Championship, a chance, senior players. He loses probably his best midfielder, Akram Bouras. Not only that, in Algeria, it's very important to have home field advantage. MC of Algiers have probably the best home field advantage of any club in Algeria. Uh, However, due to incidents last year due to crowd violence and where some supporters even died, he was without his home supporters for the first few matches as well. And then just injuries to very important players like the Ghanaian striker, Mohamed Salih Bangura, probably their best striker. But not just him, players like Mohamed Zugrana from Burkina Faso. Uh, Ivorian, but Burkina Faso international right now. So it was a very difficult start to the season. He had to use a lot of young players, and still, they're top of the league with 3 matches in hand. So he's really passed everything with flying colors. The only minor point of criticism is that they've been great defensively. I believe they've only conceded 3 goals in 10 matches. However, in those 10 matches, or sorry, they've only conceded 3 goals in those 8 matches, but however, they've only scored 10 goals in those 8 matches as well. Now, coach, when I spoke to him, you're going to see this in the video, he says that we have around 20 XG, so we should have closer to 20 goals. However, the quality of striker in attack is maybe a little bit lacking because they've had to rely so much on youth players, because, Bangura is there because of injuries and so on and so forth. So they should be scoring more goals. Coach argues that they're creating enough chances. I would slightly agree, but I still think they should be scoring more goals than they have. He's done some very interesting tactical trends, as you would expect any Ghulani Mokwena side to. Right back inverts Mohamed Reda Hlaynia. He inverts and plays a central midfield role. The central attacking midfielder, usually Arabi Tabti, has been playing as the deepest midfielder. He's the one that splits the center halves and starts the build-up play from the very first line. So it's been a wonder seeing him actually have that role. People love him in that role, taking that technical quality of a player and making sure they start the build-up with it. Credit to coach for that switch. And then also you've had like some what we consider box-to-box midfielders like Alassane Bangura, sometimes playing on the wing. And just using that physicality to try and stop the other team's build-up play and to try and inhibit that. So it's been really interesting watching his MC of Algiers teams and seeing these tactical trends that we see all around modern football. We haven't really seen it in Algeria, and now we're getting it in Algeria, and it's been great to see. Um, but yeah, my question is like always, like when the stakes are high, can we play this, positionless football? Can you try to philosophize in the big matches? Can you bring that to the CAF Champions League? But that's why this coach is so refreshing, because we're going to get the answers to that pretty soon. He will be receiving the return of Salou Bangura, as I mentioned, and Zugrana. So he's the beginning of this Champions League, the first 2 match days. It's good for him because he's the return of a lot of starting players are coming back, even though he might lose some. Actually, no, he's not going to lose any. I was gonna say he might lose some to the Arab Cup. There's a few MC of Algiers players were selected to the Arab Cup, but the Arab Cup starts for Algeria in the first week of December, and by then he's going to be finished the first 2 matches of the CAF Champions League. So, return of senior players, perfect timing for him. But it does feel like the squad is not ready yet. It feels like they're missing maybe 1 or 2 attacking players. Like a Yusuf Belali would be perfect in the squad. A Lucas Ribeiro would be perfect in the squad. They need that ultimately talented, creative, attacking midfielder that can play in the half spaces, that can unlock a defense. I don't think they have that yet, and that can even score goals. So I think if Mokwena is supported and if he's given license to do what he wants to do in the winter transfer window, MC of Algiers are a serious contender for this CAF Champions League title. If not, it's going to be interesting. But the squad, like I said, is not ready yet, but they feel united. And, sometimes they say, you're united or you're happy because you're winning, or you're winning because you're happy and united. It's one of those for MC of Algiers. Like success breeds success, and they've had a really great start to the season. Al-Hilal. Al-Hilal have had a little bit of a fractured start to the season because instead of playing in Mauritania like they were last year, this year they're playing in Rwanda. And of course, they're playing in a foreign league because if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, there's a civil war happening in Sudan. So first thing is, Rwanda it's kind of far from where a lot of the powerhouses of the CAF Champions League play their football. So kind of far from the Southern African football and from Northern African football. So I think a lot about that is, man, for the big teams, they're going to have to travel far to get to Rwanda. Usually they say, I know like in mixed martial arts for cage fighters, some of them are based in UAE, some of them based in North America, some of them are based in Asia. And they say, however time zones you need to cross is how many days your body needs to fully recover. So for example, if let's say we do a North America flight to a Europe flight, which is like 6 time zones usually, if you're going to Western Europe, you'd need 6 days to fully recover, for your body to fully recover, to get rid of any jet laggers. Rwanda is like a good 4 or 5 hour flight from North Africa if you're going direct. That's like you usually need a good 4 or 5 hour days. The footballing calendar doesn't allow for that. So I think for a lot of these clubs, flying to Rwanda is going to be much more challenging than flying to Mauritania, at least for the Northern African clubs. That's the first thing. Second thing is, because they joined the Rwandan League, the league had already started. They've only played one match in the league, which was a 2-0 victory. Yeah, that was on November 10th. So they played their first league match just 10 days ago. They were supposed to have a match on November 6th against Bugesera. That was postponed. Bugesera said they were not ready for that. They also played a friendly match against the Rwandan national team, who was experimenting with a lot of local players during the international break, and that finished 0-0. And they made the final of a friendly tournament called the Sekafa Kagame Cup. But they made the final, and then Singida Black Stars defeated them 2-1. I don't think they were going full tilt for that anyways. They are keeping most of their players. They have to go to the Arab Cup a little bit earlier because there's a qualifier on November 26th, so 6 days from now. They are keeping most of their players, but Sudan did take Mohamed Mustafa, for example, the starting goalkeeper for Sudan and Al-Hilal, and Walidin Khidr, Pagwa, in central midfield, who's also a starter for Al-Hilal. So those two will probably miss this match, I'm assuming. The coach they have this year is Laurencio Regekamp. Regekamp, if you remember correctly, had a lot of experience, in the Middle East, and he replaced Miguel Cardozo when Miguel Cardozo was fired at Esperance de Tunis. Remember, Cardozo was kind of fired at the beginning of last year because they felt like he was drawing too many matches. He wasn't scoring enough goals. Regekamp comes in, they start scoring a lot of goals, but they're conceding. And so he gets fired as well, just 2 weeks before they play Mamelodi Sundowns, and Maher Mezahi comes in with not enough time, and Esperance de Tunis are eliminated. But Regekamp is back in Africa, and now he's with Al-Hilal. I think he plays attractive football. I think it's a good appointment. I think they had a pretty good transfer window in the winter. They bring in Sunday Adetunji, a Nigerian striker who actually now is Sudanese. He received Sudanese citizenship, and he's been the main star for them, I would say, over the last few months. He scored 3 goals in the Kagame Cup. He scored in the CAF Champions League qualifiers. In my opinion, at the moment, he's a little bit of an upgrade on Mohamed Abdurrahman, their talismanic, iconic captain, who's also a striker. But I think that's maybe lost a step in terms of speed and physicality. They've also made, in my opinion, upgrades at center half, bringing in Mustafa Karshom, center goalkeeper as well. I think Mohamed Mustafa is maybe an upgrade on Issa Fofana. And then Aprocius Petrus is a player that Olani Mukwana actually should be familiar with. He came from Cape Town City, was playing in the PSL, the Namibian DM, for a long period of time. So it's going to be a tough match, as always, between these two clubs. I do anticipate a draw here. I think it's going to be MC Alger have been defending well all season. I don't think they're going to play to defend under Coach Mukwana, but I do think it's going to be a scoring draw here. 1-1 is my prediction. Next, we're going to talk about Mamelodi Sundowns versus Saint-Eloi Lupopo. Sundowns are not as dominant this year as they have been in previous years in the PSL. In 10 PSL games, Sundowns have dropped 9 points, and they have exited two cup competitions already. However, I think all of South Africa is going to be behind Sundowns for this match because they're playing Lupopo, or at least Pirates fans will be behind Sundowns. And Lupopo had a very controversial two controversial legs against Orlando Pirates, where there was a lot of taunting, controversy, Lupopo accusing Orlando Pirates of spraying chemicals in their dressing room, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of unity here. But as for Sundowns themselves this year, like I said, not in great form for their lofty standards. One nice surprise has been Tashreeq Matthews, who I really criticized last year in the CAF Champions League for missing too many open sitters. Didn't think he was ready for that level yet. This year, 4 goals and 4 assists. I think leading the team in goal contributions. Arthur Saleh has also been starting matches and playing pretty well. It's to be seen whether they're playing that well just in the PSL and DSTV Premiership, or if they can make the step up and continue that kind of vein of form in the CAF Champions League. I'm very also curious to watch the Portuguese players, which I haven't watched too much of, Miguel Reisinho and Nuno Santos. Usually European players, it can go one of two ways. They can be, or even South American players, they can be fantastic or they can flop. I don't think either of those have been fantastic or flopped yet, but yeah, curious to see how they do in the CAF Champions League in particular, not just in the PSL. I've said this before, actually, since the Club World Cup. I don't love Keanu Cupido as a center half, particularly in the CAF Champions League, when you're going to be playing against the physical side like Lupopo, when you're going to be playing against a physical side like, MC of Algiers, or even Al-Hilal. Al-Hilal, they got that Al-Hajj Mediki Kane, like the central midfielder, Walidin Khadr Pogba. Karshoum is massive. He's so tall. Um, you're going to be challenged aerially. Don't know if Cupido's the answer there. I know Sundowns have DNA. I know they want to play a certain brand of football. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't love him as a center half for Sundowns. But my last point is that Sundowns, when I look at their starting 11, they don't really feel, in my opinion, my humble opinion, doesn't feel like a better team than it did 1 or even 2 years ago. When I think about 2 years ago with Ribeiro and Temba Zwane in his prime, and then you have the exact same players. You have, Iki Reiners, you have a younger Petro Shalulile, you have Teboho Mokoena in his prime. Doesn't, in my opinion, feel like a better squad here. Just my personal opinion. I think they're aging a little bit, and I think they haven't been able to replace somebody like Ribeiro. Yeah. So still expect them to do very well. And when I talk about Sundowns and Ahly, sometimes I'm going to seem harsh, but I'm harsh according to Sundowns' lofty standards. I still, don't get me wrong, I still expect them to get out of the group. I still expect them to advance far in this tournament. But there are some troubling signs. As for Saint Eloi Lupopo, they didn't just get past Orlando Pirates, they also got past Almeria. So I don't think they fluked. This is a good physical team that's tough to play when they go play in Lubumbashi. They're 6-time winners of the Lina Food Championship in DRC, which makes them the 4th greatest ever Congolese side in terms of titles. Yeah, they have some experienced players. I'm thinking of Isama Mpeko, the right back / right wing, long-time fullback at TP Mazembe, and even played at AS Vita Club. Ajay Basiala was the best player, not only for AS Maniema Union last year in the CAF Champions League, but also at the Chan for DR Congo. He was one of the main players, and especially with his set pieces, he whips in a very good cross from free kicks. Again, that's why Sundowns will have to be careful. I think that's probably the only way that Central Lupopo are going to hurt them. They also have Miche Mika, who's like a Chan legend. He made 18 appearances in the Chan. And they have a central defender that's very good in the air named Katumbwe as well. He scored a goal in Chan from a set piece. So yeah, they have good crossers of the ball, and they attack the air very well as well. So I think when Lupopo plays Sundowns in this Group C fixture, or Group A fixture, I think, no? Or is it Group C? Whatever. I think they're gonna challenge Sundowns in the air. I still think Sundowns are going to get a victory, but I think Lupopo is going to get one in the air. Sundowns should win this 2-1. And luckily for Lupopo, JMRC Amale Mukoko is not going to be playing. I think he's persona non grata number 1 in South Africa for the way he was taunting Orlando Pirates fans. So Mukoko will not be playing. Young Africans versus IS FAR. And here, some of my notes about Young Africans have come from Salim Masoud Said. So please, if you don't follow him, you can find a description to his social media you can find a link to his social media in the description below. I think you'll be smarter for following him because he gives great insights to any Tanzanian club. So for Young Africans, as he correctly points out, this is the 5th coach since the start of last season. So in the last 12 months, 4 coaches. So much instability for Yanga, and that's the kind of situation that the Portuguese coach, Pedro Gonçalves, steps into. If that sounds like a familiar name, it's because he was, of course, the longtime coach of the Angolan national team. Remember, he started with the youth national teams in Angola, I think the under-17 team, and sort of grew with that young generation of players that included Sito Lavumbu, Kapita, and so on and so forth. And so, I think good developmental coach. Question is, will they be patient? Doesn't look like they've been very patient. They fired Roman Fos last month. And that sort of instability takes a toll on the team's identity. It's not really clear how they're going to play, what the kind of football they want to play. And like Mamelodi Sundowns, when I look at Yanga's team that qualified to the final of the CAF Confederation Cup, Fiston Mayele, and that midfield trio of Khalid Aucho, Stefan Aziski, Mudathir Yahya, Tanzanian international, I don't think they've properly replaced those midfielders, particularly Khalid Aucho. That's Salim's point, is like Aucho not only was a leader from what he did from a technical point of view, he was in terms of being a metronome and making sure that possession in midfield is tidy, but off of the pitch, he added an element of leadership that perhaps they haven't been able to replace yet. So the new signings, they haven't really shown yet. And also for Yanga, they're playing their home matches in Zanzibar, not in Benjamin Mkapa. Uh, so because of how difficult their group is, don't really predict that young Africans are going to do very well, and they're coming up against a very tough team in ISFAR. ISFAR are in second place in the Butula after we did this year. 8 games played, 5 wins, 3 draws. In the 8 games, they've scored a healthy 14 goals. They've conceded 1 in 8 games. They had a lot of changeover as well, but I think they've replaced the players very well. So they lost Amin Zahzouh, one of the better attacking midfielders or wingers in the Moroccan Botola last year and in Africa. 2 center halves, Hatem Saoubi and Enoch Inonga. Joel Beya, the Congolese striker as well from TP Mazembe. And Akram Naqash, the left back. They replaced them with, so Amin Zahzouh for Rida Slim, who's from ISFAR Rabat, was at Al-Ahly, and he's back with ISFAR Rabat. Center halves, they brought in Yunus Abdelhamid and Marwan Al-Wadni, who I think are at the same level as Saoubi and Inonga, if not a level above. Hamza Khaba and Mohsin Bouriga, 2 strikers they brought in. Better, in my opinion, than Joel Beya, even though neither of them have scored a goal yet, and that's one of the points of concern for ISFAR for me. And then they brought in Jamal Shemekh as a left back, who I think on par with Akram Naqash. So I really liked how they did their transfer business. They brought in Alexander Santos. Remember, he was former Petro de Luanda coach back when they were making that run in the African Football League. He was all known to have, in that CAF Champions League run as well, they had a very stout defense. And you could see that this is also translating with ISFAR conceding only 1 goal out of 8. Their captain, Mohamed Rabbi Harimat, the MVP of the African Nations Championship, which Morocco won in East Africa earlier this year. He's been in the form of his life since Chan. He's leading the goal scoring with 5 goals. Yusuf Al-Fahli as a right winger, also playing fantastic football. Even when he had to play as a number 9 last year, playing great football. And then, the rest of their midfield is so reliable. Aitor Khan, Anas Bash is such a versatile player that even has been playing for the Moroccan national team. Zindine Darak, also solid in midfield. So yeah, really well coached, really well put together team, very cohesive unit. I'm expecting them to go far in this tournament. I think they're playing this match in Tanzania. This is going to be my first shocking prediction. I think ISFAR beats Young Africans in Zanzibar. I regret making that prediction almost immediately, but I don't think Young Africans are going to have that much success in CAF Champions League this year. Al-Ahly versus JS Kabylie. If you are a JS Kabylie fan, if you're an Al-Ahly fan, there was an iconic tie between these two sides in 2010. I think immediately your mind goes back to that. In 2010, when JS Kabylie, this was immediately after Algeria and Egypt went head-to-head, both in the World Cup qualifiers and then in the AFCON semifinals of 2010, AFCON in Angola. And then you have the 2 most successful clubs from each nation playing against one another. And there was a midfielder named Saad Tijjar who scored 2 wonderful goals. One in the away leg, one in the home leg for JS Kabylie as they shocked Al-Ahly. That was a really good JS Kabylie team. So that's immediately where my mind goes. But Al-Ahly are in a little bit of trouble. Not trouble, but they haven't gotten off to the start, again, of the lofty ambitions that we always have for Al-Ahly. So the Danish coach, Jes Torup, has been in charge for about a month. Started to get his hands into the team and fashion them in the way that he wants them to. Al-Ahly also beat Zamalek a week ago, or maybe 10 days ago, which was a huge boost in the Egyptian Super Cup. When you win silverware prior to playing CAF Champions League, great. When you win silverware against your biggest rival, again, huge boost. However, in the Egyptian Premier League this season, they've played 12 matches at Ahly. They've conceded 13 goals. There's 21 teams in the Egyptian Premier League. That makes Al-Ahly 16th in the Egyptian Premier League in terms of defensive record. 16th. They're not even in the top half, which is disgraceful for Al-Ahly. And Jes Torup knows that's not good enough. And he's been hammering this point time and time again, saying, yes, winning goals can win you matches. Defense wins you championships. I don't really know what to make of Yassin Mar'i, who sort of replaced Rami Rabia as the center half. It seems like Al-Ahli overspent on midfield and probably didn't replace Wissam Abu Ali as a striker or Rami Rabia as a center half enough, because they brought back Aliou Dieng, Hamdi Fatih was there at the Club World Cup, Trezeguet, Zizou, Mohamed Ali bin Ramadan. You brought back all these midfielders. Okay, great. But your center halves are, and even left back, you've been playing with Nabil Kuka. Probably needed a better left back, a better center half, and probably needed a striker that replaced Wissam Abu Ali better. Overall, I think their transfer business was not right, in my opinion. Still, Trezeguet has been playing very well. Zizou has been playing; they've been the best players. Nate Gradishar slowly coming into form, so maybe he can be that striker that replaces Abu Ali. I'm expecting all those guys to start with Ben Sharqi, Marwan Atiyah, and Aliou Dieng. Al-Ahli is still Al-Ahli, like I said. I'm being critical here, but still expect them to reach the semifinals. And if you're just Torup, I think you just want to come away with, I think, 4 points out of your first 2 matches, which is, I feel guilty saying that about Ahly, but it's a thing where you're a new coach, you've been here for a month, your team's starting to play as you want them to, you're going to be losing, I don't know if they're losing too many players from the Arab Cup. I forgot to look at the Arab Cup squad. I don't think they are. My point is though, like, your team is going to look a lot different, or you're going to be a lot more comfortable with your team in February if you aren't fired than you are right now. So just make sure you don't drop too many points. Don't come away with these 2 matches with just 1 point. That would be catastrophic and it would put too much pressure on you in February. Esperance versus Stade Malien. Esperance are coming into this match with 34,000. Or sorry, they've received approval for 34,000 in attendance. Esperance are unbeaten in their league since September 13th, so it's been more than 2 months now. They're top of the table by over 3 points. Club Africain are also having a very good season. They're hot in pursuit. In their 14 matches, they've only conceded 3 goals. So they're at the AS FAR Rabat level of defensive play and even MC Alger's level of defensive play in Tunisia. So that's very, very good. However, there's a big however. Youssef Belaili, who had another hot start to the season with 5 goals and 6 assists in 15 matches, so 11 goal contributions in 15 matches, knee ligament injury. So he's out for the rest of the season. I've seen rumors, I don't know if this is confirmed, that Youssef Msakni has actually signed with Esperance and that he's going to be back, which would be kind of ironic because Youssef Msakni was at Esperance when they won the Champions League, I think in 2011 or 2012. Then he goes to Qatar and then they bring in Youssef Belaili to replace Youssef Msakni. And now Youssef Belaili is injured and they bring Youssef Msakni to replace Youssef Belaili. But I don't know what Msakni's form would be like if he comes back. I don't think he's played competitive football in 6 months. Last time he played competitive football was for his club Al-Arabi in Qatar, I think around May. So I'm not sure if you can rely on him. But what a shame for Belaili's injury, because I had such high hopes for this team. I think they brought in a really good striker in Florian Daniel. Kosel Abu Alia, they're brought in a left-footed right winger. From JS Kabylie, he's been really good as well. He's had combined very well with Yansas and Daniel and Belaili. You still have Yansas, of course. Ibrahima Konate and Oneche Agbelu, your 2 midfielders from Ivory Coast and Nigeria, respectively, have developed as you expected them to, because they're only 20, 21 years old. Yassin Mariah is back. He was, remember, gone for the entirety of the CAF Champions League campaign last season. And Ibrahima Keita was a good upgrade at right back, in my opinion. Former TP Mazembe right back who's of Mauritanian nationality. So I really like their squad. Really, really like their squad. But they rely so much on Youssef Belaili to construct attacks, and I have no idea how they're going to make up for that. We'll see. Stade Malien, I don't know much about. The coach is a Cameroonian coach named Mauriel Njoya, former Nwadibu, former Mauritania under-20, and former Rahimo FC in Burkina Faso. He seems to be more of like somebody that works well with young players, because prior to all of those, he was at the best academy in Cameroon, L'École de Brasfé. Apparently, he was the coach when Jeremy Njitap, who ended up playing with Real Madrid and Chelsea, was there. I think Pierre Weibo as well, the left back, the Cameroonian left back. Was he at Inter Milan? I think he was. So he was like, and Rahimo as well is like a club that's known for young players, and the Malian clubs, whether it's Stade Malien or Joliba, I was expecting to because Joliba last year, if you remember, their average age was like 21, 22 years old when they were playing in the CAF Champions League group stages. So it wasn't a huge surprise that they were bounced out fairly easily in the group stages. This Stade Malien team, though, is not as young as Joliba was last year. When I see the players that were playing for them, that were starting in the starting lineups for them in the CAF Champions League qualifiers, they're around 24 years old is the average age, which is still young, but not extremely young. They have Boubacar Haine from Niger, who's a striker that has a lot of experience on the African continent in places like Algeria, Tunisia. He's played everywhere. They have a good Cameroonian winger named Teddy Sinkeng, who played for Cameroon under 20. I believe he scored a few important goals in the qualifiers. And then Abdul Bode, who's current right back, starting right back for the Togo national team, is another experienced player, 30 years old, that they can rely on in this Champions League group stages as well. I'm not going to pretend I know enough about Stade Malien. It's important to point out maybe that Mali has been going through a very difficult period over the last month. There's been rebels, fighters, Malian government calls them terrorists, Al-Qaeda affiliates, so you could probably, they'd probably be justified in saying that have actually been choking off Bamako, not letting any gas or petrol come into the city. So there's apparently like school has been off, the local league has not started yet. That affects Stade Malien. Of course, that affects Stade Malien. Players are human beings, so we'll see how that affects them in the group stages. So that plus the overall quality of the squad, don't anticipate them getting out of the group stages. I think Esperance are going to win this match pretty handily in Tunisia. Pyramids versus Rivers United. Pyramids are 3 games behind in the Egyptian Premier League, so they haven't played all their matches. If they win all those 3 matches, they'll be top of the Egyptian Premier League. They've just been voted Club of the Year at the CAF Awards. Fiston Mele has just been named Player of the Year at the CAF Awards as well. They're doing very good in the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, which is like the old version of the Club World Cup. And stability at the coaching level, in the squad level. The only player that they really lost was Ibrahim Adel, and they reinforced their attacking midfield by bringing in 3 players, Mustafa Zico, Zaraka, and Everton. Everton is a Brazilian player that was playing in the Conference League last year, was a captain, and Mustafa Zico is the left winger, and they've been doing a pretty good job of replacing him. Mohamed Chibi, their Moroccan right back, is off to a hot start. Fiston Mayele seems to never lose form, going from strength to strength. They'll be one of the favorites again. Not much to say here. They're going up against Rivers United, and I got a lot of this information from Andrew Randa, so I'm going to put his social media in the description below. You can follow him. Very good resource for anything NPFL. He tells me that Rivers United are one of the strongest Nigerian sides of recent years, coached by Finidi George, who's from River State, and assisted by the under-17 coach of the Nigerian national team, who's supposed to be one of the hottest coaches in Nigeria at the moment. Good squad. First choice goalkeeper. They have 8 clean sheets in 13 match days. So first choice goalkeeper for Nigeria's Chan squad, I believe, plays for Rivers United. Defensively very solid, but they need to improve their attack. So yeah. By Nigerian standards, he says very, very good squad. And he gave me a few players' names, and I forgot to mention them in my notes. I'm so stupid. Sorry, guys. But basically, Rivers United expected to do very well. Finidi George, remember, was coaching the Nigerian national team, and before that in Yimba. So a lot of experience. I remember Rivers, when they came to USM of Algiers, were really pushing them in the CAF Confederation Cup. And so, yeah, clearly they have a great defensive record with 8 clean sheets in 13 match days. If they go to Cairo playing against Pyramids, they're going to try to hold that. I think Pyramids are going to have too much for them, but they're not going to blow them out. Probably 2-0. RS Berkane versus Power Dynamos, and then Simba versus Petro Luanda, and we're out of here. I've been trying to go as fast as possible because so much detail. Where else are we going to get this much detail, honestly, about all these teams? Go on, man. Subscribe. Send this channel to a friend. Power Dynamos. Sorry, RS Berkane versus Power Dynamos. I'm so stupid. Okay. RS Berkane, the CAF Confederation Cup kings, as we know. The question is, will they do well in the CAF Champions League? It's something that we've always sort of asked. And we haven't really been able to find out because they'd never qualify. It's going to be a clear step up in competition, but when you see how they dominated the Botola last year, the Moroccan league, winning it in record time, and how they dominated teams that played in the CAF Champions League last season, not last season, but season before, like CS Constantine in Algeria, even I think we're clearly better than Simba. In my opinion, it indicates that they're ready to make the step up. Now, their problem this year, like Al-Ahly, is that they've conceded 7 goals in 6 matches, so conceding more than a goal a game. I put that partly down to the fact that they've lost 2 of their most influential center halves. So Issoufou Dayo, their longtime captain, their Burkina Faso international, he's no longer there. Same thing with Adil Tahif, Moroccan under-23 international that was a part of that Morocco under-23 squad that won a bronze medal at the Paris Olympic Games. Now, they brought in some replacements. Ismail Khandous is one of them. Oussama Khaddadi, a Tunisian international, is another, and Abdelhak Hassal is the third. Haddadi has been playing as a center half. I remember him he can play as a center half. I remember him often playing as a left back as well. I don't know if he has the kind of imposing physicality that Issoufou Dayo has, for example. I don't know about the other two are good players, but I don't know if they can step up to the level of Tahif and Issoufou Dayo. So I think they've downgraded a little bit at at CB, at center half. One place where they're very, very strong is their midfield. And Mamadou Lamine Camara, who put in one of the best performances I've seen in the CAF Confederation Cup final last year against Simba. He's been playing with the Senegalese national team. And people in Senegal are like, why isn't this guy starting for a Premier League team? And he should have. I think he was very close to a move to Stoke City last year. And somehow he failed his medical, apparently. I don't know how that happened. But he's not long for RS Berkane. He's going to be out of there in the winter or hopefully for them next summer. He's probably the best midfielder in Africa. And he's been getting better and better as he grows. So Mamadou Lamine Kamara is the truth. But on top of that, Youssef Mehdi has been very good from the wing positions. They have a lot of wingers that can score goals, whether it was, Mehdi or I'm blanking on names now. God damn. But I remember all of their wingers would attack the ball very, very well. Mounir Chouier is a player that they brought in who was playing his football in Europe and is a very expensive signing. And yeah, they have just so much quality, and not even talking about their striker, Osama Lemliwi, who's one of the best players playing their football on the continent. If Fiston Mayele didn't win CAF Interclub Player of the Year, probably would have been Osama Lemliwi for his performance in the CAF Confederation Cup last year, in the Botola last year, and then in the Chan as well. I don't think there's a player that had a better 12 months. Fiston Mayele maybe was better over the last season, but over the last 12 months, if you go starting from January, that's when Lemliwi started to impose himself. Incredible player. And then finally, their coach, Mouin Shabani, is a coach that has won the CAF Champions League twice with Esperance, has won a CAF Confederation Cup, has won league titles in Tunisia and in Morocco. Very few can compare CVs with him, and he's only 44 years old. So Berkane is a team that, in my opinion, doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. The only real slight question mark is at center half. My questions will really begin for them late in the knockout stages. I'm expecting them to get out of the group stage here and to beat to beat Power Dynamos at home. As for Power Dynamos, these notes come from a radio host in Zambia named Puntarello Shama, who tells me Power Dynamos were created in the 1970s and nicknamed a baby born with teeth because they never really spent one season in the lower leagues. They started from the bottom, and every single year they would climb up, and they've never been demoted from the top division since they made it to the top in the late 70s. He tells me that in the early 80s they reached the final of the CAF Cup Winners' Cup, which is of course the CAF Confederation Cup, the predecessor to that. The first Zambian team to reach a final, and then in '91 they beat BBC Lions of Nigeria in the final, the first and only Zambian club to ever win a continental title. People question if they were going to get to the group stage because they haven't had too much recent success in terms of continental success. But they managed to get here. He tells me they're a top 3 team in terms of popularity with a passionate fan base. However, they play their football. They're based in Kitwe, and they're having to play their matches in Ndola. Ndola is a big national stadium with a huge pitch, and Kitwe is smaller and more intimate. He tells me sometimes they struggle with their playing style when they have to play on the bigger pitch, and they can't pack out the national stadium as well because not only do the fans have to travel, but it's also a much bigger stadium as well. Coach comes from a footballing family. It's the first time he won a league title. The best player for him is Moses Shuma, who was in the Kenyan Premier League last season. Prince Mumba is also a winger that can play for the Zambian national team he played for the Zambian national team a few years ago. Lawrence Mulenga in goal is a starting Zambian goalkeeper, first choice. So he thinks they're a very good side, particularly he just thinks that they're going to be a tough side to beat, but he's just not sure how they're going to adapt to playing in the CAF Champions League group stage because you're playing us, Ahly, Pyramids, Sundowns. These are major, major clubs. And for a club like Power Dynamos, which is a major club in Zambia, how are they going to deal with that continental pedigree? That's what he's not sure about. So I'm not expecting them to get out of the group stages, but I'm expecting them to be very tough. Simba versus Petro de Luanda. Simba, again, thanks to Salim. He tells me confident for them because they have an easier group than Yanga. Now, the thing with Simba is that they reached the CAF Confederation Cup final last year against Berkane, of course, yeah. And then what happened was they decided, you know what? We need to be ambitious. We're going to be in the CAF Champions League last year. We need to upgrade our squad. So they get rid of some even influential players like Fabrice Ngoma, the defensive midfielder, Che Malo, the Cameroonian center half. And they replaced them because Fadlu Davis is in helm with actually some South Africans. So Neo Maema and Russian Daruk, who have both been very, very good, by the way. Probably upgrades, thanks to Fadlu Davids for convincing them. However, what Simba were not expected was Fadlu Davids to sort of, they gave him like here's, make the squad changes that you want and sort of lead us to CAF Champions League success. And for them, unfortunately, he takes on a job at Raja Casablanca at the beginning of the season. So, they have not only those South African additions, they also have Jonathan Soa, who I think was at Singida Black Stars last season. Might have led the Tanzanian Premier League in scoring, or maybe he was top 3 for sure in 15 goals. They have Mwalimu, who was at Wydad Casablanca. So they have a lot more of a deep squad, especially particularly in attack. But the problem is, the coach that brought in these players is no longer there anymore. So he was explaining it to me like, you have quality ingredients, but they're not your current chef's ingredients. And the current chef is a Bulgarian fellow named Dimitar Pantev, who was in Gaborone and Botswana. And before that, he was in Cameroon, but he doesn't really have a solidified, well-proven CV in African football. It's not like he coached a huge club in African football. It's just that Gaborone United played against Simba, and they liked the way that his team were playing, and that's pretty much, this is like love at first sight. Like, you know what, this guy's an interesting coach, and they brought him on. The problem with him is he doesn't really have his coaching badges, so it's not even confirmed if he's going to be able to be on the touchline for Simba. We've seen that happen with Stade d'Abidjan a few years ago with their French coach. We've seen that happen with a few different teams, but Pantev is the coach. Apparently, he likes to play possession. He likes to have slick passing. We'll see how much of that they can do. So yeah, good ingredients, but it's not necessarily the chef's ingredients. How quickly can he familiarize himself with these ingredients and put in place or cook a nice dish is something that we're going to have to find out. And then Petro Luanda, thanks to Rico Costa for this. Also, we'll put his social media in the description below. The Spanish coach Frank Artiga, excuse me, was appointed earlier this season for 2 years. Best players are Pedro Parezio, Jonathan Toro was a fan favorite, Thiago Reis, new signing. And they also have players like Gilberto. We all know Gilberto, who was at Orlando Pirates. He was at African Nations Championship for Angola and for the Angolan national team as well, with his dyed blonde hair and his entertaining dribbling and everything. The weaknesses for them is they lost Pedro Pinto and Mateus Costa, particularly in defense. So he thinks the backline could be perhaps a little bit shaky, particularly with Pedro Pinto's leadership. We talked about Khalid Aucho's leadership, but Pedro Pinto is the same thing. The strength, he says, is that they're interesting in possession and they have creative talent across the attacking line. He thinks they're going to be interesting to watch, entertaining to watch. They will score goals. Just has some questions about the ability to replace Pedro Pinto along the back line. So Petro Luanda, I think, is going to be competitive again after a few years where they weren't. But I do think Simba will be the favorite in this particular fixture at home. Anyways, we'll leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed all of that. Like I said, definitely going to be watching all the matches. Going to come back, recap the matches. And then after that recap, we'll go Rolani interview, inshallah. It's a very, very busy time period. After all of that, we're going to start previewing team by team for the African Cup of Nations. So please keep it locked in. Please share this channel with a friend. Please comment. Please subscribe. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Peace.